Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EG.
Well, folks, welcome to our edition of Politics and Random. Egberto is your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have, as usual, a great show for you today. We got a lot to cover.
Let us engage.
Independent media. We have a lot to cover. Fascism.
Right.
We got a lot to cover. Also, white supremacy. Not in the context that you think, but in a message by a young man on TikTok, that is, that I love the way he was able to explain it. But before we get busy, welcome aboard to all my peeps. Welcome aboard Michael Rutnan from Brooklyn, New York. We are in the house with Lita Bearcat from Austin, Texas. And of course, we've got Patrick Magner from Houston, Texas. Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. And in the house as well on the chat in the Substack. And by the way, if you're in Substack, drop me a line. Tell me your city and state. I love to call you out. But right now we have, we lose the first few dozen, but we now have Arts and Dejas, David Bradman, Charles Abraham, John Sirius, William Thompson, Celeste, Sushako, Rob C., Lawrence Riley, Frank Trumbull, Elwin Hudson. Thank you so kindly for being here with us. Let's get more people coming in. Anyway, we're going to have a great show for you today. How's everybody doing today? How are you enjoying the fascism, the birth of fascism in front of our eyes, with too many people just not seeing the tiny steps one after the other? Who cannot see that they first tested what the National Guards would look like in Washington's, or rather in Los Angeles, after they saw that, they created some commotion, but it's okay. So you put the National Guards in Washington, D.C., it's kind of working okay. People are not really protesting. Heads are not cracking. And you give your warning that the National Guard's going to be coming to New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, back to L.A., Washington, D.C. Those cities share an interesting thing in common, right? Large cities with black mayors. I wonder if there's something to do with that. What do you think? Welcome aboard, Rita Pape. Do you think it has something to do with that? I don't know. But you know what? I think it has more to do with politics being democratic, identifiably democratic cities. But I was surprised. It didn't happen in Houston. And Houston has a very activist community as well. But Houston is a red state. Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, PA, democratic states. Wow. John Sirius says, not enjoying it at all, Egberto. Glad you're there. And we're going to stay here, and we're going to continue educating. We're going to continue informing. We're going to continue letting every American know that they can be the change that we must have. They will be the change that we must have. We've been through this before. The Red Scare, we've been through this before. Reconstruction, we've been through this before. And we will get by. But we have to be willing to engage. And we have to engage now. We can't wait for things to really, really happen. Let me tell you the other reasons that they're touching a lot of these cities that are run by black folk. Because here's what they're expecting from my white brothers and sisters. America has not really seen fear in a long time, autocracy in a long time. America has not lived through what we've lived through in Panama, in Nicaragua, in Honduras, in Dominican Republic, and even Jamaica with Siaga versus Manley. We've not experienced the angst that comes with political strife and what we want to see is we want to see it just go away. It just go away. By starting with these major cities that will and can make a difference in election. The expectation is that people will just say, we want it to go away. And it's just happening to those people in these big cities, these blue areas, that we have learned how to Not necessarily that we just disregard them, but and let me tell a truth as well. And I understand the human dynamics. The human dynamics are human dynamics. You can't run away from human dynamics. And one of the human dynamics is that we hurt the ones that are easiest to hurt. We harm the ones that are easiest to harm. Self-preservation. Even though that self-preservation sometimes do not come to fruition. Ask our German brothers and sisters in the 30s, right? So we have to realize that in dividing us all up in all these different identities with gradations of power, with the great gradations of rights, with gradations of privilege, it gives us the ability to partition. It gives us the ability to slowly work up the ladder. So we work with the folks that are considered the lowest on the totem poles, and the others are fearful, at least it's not me. Donald Trump talks about his success with Latinos, and Latinos were able to come and say, at least it's not me for a while, right? So they kind of jumped on the Trump bandwagon because they just thought maybe it'll be okay. And we know what this guy is. It's going to be okay. They jumped on the bandwagon. But now, after having jumped on the bandwagon, a lot of us, many Latinos are out there saying, oh my God, but you know what we didn't think about? We didn't think about when this occurred, that you can't distinguish me from any other Panamanian. You can't distinguish a Latino citizen from an undocumented citizen. You got to make a guess, right? And when you make a guess, you dehumanize all the Latinos. I heard a Latino on TikTok this morning on a live I was covering, talking about Latinos coming over here and they're doing it the wrong way, just to find out that this guy didn't really come over the right way. But he was over here and he had his papers. But his self-preservation, this Latinos that was a mode of self-preservation he thought was being a Latino capable of telling those other Latinos, you didn't do it the right way, so you deserve being in those concentration camps. But me, I didn't do it the right way either, right? Other Latinos, that is. By the way, I'm a Latino black man who did it the right way. But I have no animosity towards those that are just trying to make it, right? And so now that he's over here and he's made it. For him, it's okay. For him, it's okay, the treatment that's going on. And for my other brothers and sisters of different levels of privilege, the fear of losing whatever level you're at implicit in the society, they are coming for you, because it has never, ever been about all the isms, brothers and sisters. It has never, ever been about the isms. All the isms have always been tools of the oligarchy. From the time that we had slavery, tools of the oligarchy, always. And it was enforced and centralized more so after the Bacon's Rebellion. We can't have all these people getting together. We can't have you working together. We can't have you realizing, yes, we're alive today, Carl Cox. We can't have people realizing that, this is how it goes, So what I want to do is I want you guys to listen to a very smart young man. If I could find this guy and give him a big hug, I would. But I want you to listen to this young man, because this young man, he said he heard it from a professor, nails it. Listen keenly, listen to every single word I ask of thee, and then we'll continue with the program with the other issues at hand. But I want you to listen. Actually, before I put him on, let me read some of these messages in the chat. Lee the Bearcat says, is removing $275K from Social Security. Can he do it? And does that stabilize it in the long run or for saving? Mr. T is removing $275K from Social Security. Can he do it? I don't know. I haven't read that. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about that, Lee the Bearcat. I'll research it. Let's see. Michael says, just remember, Substack messages aren't seen unless Egberto read them out. Come on by Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube, and all your messages will be seen by chat. Yep, I'll read them out, though, because there's some people that are just comfortable on Substack. They have that application and everything. Eventually, we'll have a utility to bring them all together. Patrick says, eugenics, we have been there before. Yes, Patrick. Michael says, coming over here the right way. ICE is arresting people in the courtroom as immigrants are finishing their casework. True. Margaret Ryan says the U.S. is so much larger than other countries, so division is easier to accomplish. Engage. We are diverse, and it has always been. We are stronger because of it. Wake up. That's why we have so much. That's why we can produce so much. That's why we have so much. Buddy MCP, welcome aboard, sis from Binghamton, New York, says they come here trying to make a good living, and we are being sent to concentration camps. Maxwell, sex trafficker, rapist, she is sent to the minimum security prisons. You know, you can learn a whole lot about all the reasons why we are getting a lot of immigrants coming over here, and it's all our doing. It's all our economic policies in Central America. People don't pick up and leave where they are, travel dangerously just for the sake of traveling dangerously. They don't do that. Harry Denson, so I'm not enjoying the fascism in this country today. All the cities you just called out not only have black mayors, but again, just as you pointed out, these are blue states, and most of the high crimes is happening in the mega states. And the interesting thing about it is not one of these people make guns. Guns are introduced into these cities, right? It's sad. It's sad. All right. Welcome, Robin Morrison, Rule of Laws, Sandra Dingler, Do You Lie, Jackie, Marco Nat Rubio, Nora, Dale, Jeanette, Walt Risotto, welcome aboard. All right, here is a video. Please, folks, I'm setting it up here. When we talk about white supremacy, people that are not critical thinkers think it's okay, and it gives them an air of superiority. It makes them feel better for some reason. Somehow I'm better than you are. I don't feeling better than somebody else is something to be proud of. If I feel that somebody needs a helping hand, any human being, I want to give that human being a helping hand. But you see, these tools of division, white supremacy, etc. And white supremacy doesn't really mean white. It's about power. And I want you to listen to this young man, because this young man nails it. When I say he nails it, it takes some listening to. So please listen keenly to the example that he's given. And here we go.
There's this professor whose class is notoriously hard to pass. Seems like they take pleasure in failing people. One of these professors who on the first day of class says with a smirk, half of you aren't going to finish this class. One day the teacher comes in very excited and they say they have a new game. They organize the class into left side and right side. They say from now on these are your assigned seats. Here's the game. I'm thinking of a number from 1 to 1,000,000. Everybody in the left side of the classroom gets 3 guesses per day. If you guess the number that I'm thinking, you automatically get an A in this class. If you guess wrong, you get extra work. You can turn that work in and redeem it for extra guesses. Now everybody on the right side, I want you all to work together and come up with one really good guess. If you guess right, I'll pick one of you to give an A. If you guess wrong, you all get extra work. If everyone turns that extra work in, you can redeem it for 1 extra guess for the group. As time goes on, nobody's guessing the number. They're swamped in extra work and their grades are falling behind because they're trying to keep up with this extra work as well as doing their regularly assigned work. One day, somebody from the right side of class shows up early and sits on the left side of class. The professor says, well, they got here early, so they get that seat. The people on the left side of class become fiercely protective of their seats. They start showing up earlier and earlier. They say things like, I worked hard for this seat. I'm the first person here and the last person to leave every day. I do all this extra credit work to get extra guesses. I've earned my spot here. The people on the right side of class say things like, we're all paying the same tuition and we deserve the same chance at getting an A as everybody else. They show up early too. They're putting in extra work too. They try to get a seat on the left side of the room, but all the seats are already taken. There's a limited number of seats. And it's clear to everybody playing the game that the people on the left side have an advantage just based on the arbitrarily assigned seat that they sat in. Every single day they benefit from the fact that they happen to be sitting on the left side of the room on that first day. Even though they have an advantage, and even though they're working very hard, their grades are still falling behind. The people on the right side, even though they're working very hard, their grades are still falling behind. Because the point of the game is not for somebody to win it. The intention of the game is to trick you into playing it. See, the people on the right side of the classroom, they want to opt out. They say we should all get together and agree not to play. And the people on the left side say, why would we do that? You're trying to drag the rest of us down because you're jealous that you're not on the left side. They keep the game going not because they actually have a chance to win, but because having a slightly better chance than the right side gives them the illusion that they could win. This is how two things can be true at once. This is how all white people benefit from white supremacy. We have better access to clean drinking water, better access to food, better access to healthcare, lower infant mortality rates, lower birth mother mortality rates, more impunity with the law, better schools, higher home values, get paid more at work. We're participating in a system that is designed to see most of us fail, is designed to see most of us work more for less. We're so worried about not giving up our seat, we perpetuate a system that is designed to make most of us lose. And we think of ourselves as winners because we aren't losing the worst. There's this
I hope. I mean, there are so many things in that. This was such a genius in the way it was put together. And I want to go over it a little bit, that experiment, right? You notice what he said. You get the entire class, every individual on the left side gets a chance to guess the correct answer between 1 and 1,000,000. The probability of guessing the right answer between 1 and 1,000,000 is infinitesimal. So the people on the left side, even though each one of them have the opportunity to get the number individually, that false sense of rugged individualism, that they have that privilege that they are going to be, if they happen to guess that number, they can move on. Otherwise, for that day, they have to work hard and do the rest of work. Now, the right side goes ahead and collectively, you know how they usually, whenever we see things on TV, we talk about the black people or the Latino people or the Asian people as if they are one. And that's how you notice the right side was a collective. And collectively, if they guess it correctly, then collectively, they get one more opportunity for success. So they get less, but they have to work. They're treated as a collective as far as that is concerned, right? But here is a kicker now. The next day, one of the guys from the right comes out early and he commandeers a seat on the left. And since he excelled in saying, I did something out of the norm and commandeered a seat, I am able to stay there, right? What does that really mean in real life? That is the excuse they use in our oligarchy that says, hey, well, look, Oprah made it. How comes you can't? Oprah didn't have that much of, well, Oprah made it. You know, she made it. That one got access. It continues and it continues. And everybody at the same time continues to fall behind because even those that have individual privilege to move forward, the system is so rigged that they can't move forward all that much either. Now, Bacon's Rebellion, folks get together and says, hey, let's work together so that we can beat the system. And the people that think they have a privilege, they say, look, at least I'm not as bad as the people in that right side. I have a better chance than the person of the right side, no matter how infinitesimal my chance is. No matter how infinitesimal my chance is, I'm not going to unite with you to beat the system that is there oppressing not just black people, not just Latinos, not just Asians, but all of us. We are in one boat. My white brothers, my black brothers, my white sisters, my black sisters, my age, all of us are in the same boat. We have different gradations of privilege so that we can have those like those on the left here in this skit that says, oh my God, I know it's hard here, but at least I have a better chance than those on the right. But in reality, you don't have a better chance. Like I've always stated, in a capitalist society, you only move forward if you are invited into the crowd. You are invited into the group. And that's why if you look at all the numbers, no matter how you twist them, we are all the lower 99%, or I should say maybe 90%, are all fallen behind. And we have used all kinds of financial instruments to give us the semblance that we are doing well. to give us the semblance that it's all okay. And when our white brothers and sisters start to realize that what's occurring in DC is a precursor to what has to occur to them as well, because we eat the fruit that is there, that is easy to access. But capitalism is not capitalism and the form of economic system that we have mathematically. This is not a question. I'm not debating this issue here. Mathematically speaking, it is unsustainable. And the reason it is unsustainable is that you can't have one part of your economy growing faster than the vast majority of the rest if that growth in that part that is growing fast is not eating up the wealth of the rest. To put it in numerically, if an economic system is growing at 3%, you listen to even some of what our right wingers would come here. Social Security is a fad. It's no good. Because if you take the money that you're putting in Social Security and put it into the bank, put it into stocks or whatever, the average stock price is raised at 7%, while you don't get a 7% return if you work all your life with Social Security. To which you say, but wait a minute. If everybody decided to do that, the economy will come crashing down, because the mathematical formula governing our economy, for the whole economy to grow at 3% and the wealthy to grow at 7%, sometimes even 20%, that growth that subtracts the growth of the economy is coming from the rest of us. It's math. It's math that nobody wants to tell you. It's math that nobody will tell you. Brother Cisak says the reason people fall behind is that they swallow victimhood mentality pushed by the left. That's a mind that doesn't think critically. I just gave the mathematical reason why the economic system is unsustainable. It is only sustainable for those who are extracting from the rest of us. It's a mathematical formula. It's math. It's math. Leave Bearcat. If everybody threw whatever they had into a fixed annuity at 6.9, annuities will not pay 6 to 9%, because the law of supply and demand would immediately drop that interest rates down, because there would be so many people chasing annuities that nobody will have to pay that price for annuity. It's supply and demand. The mathematical formula is absolute. It cannot work. It cannot work. It's a mathematical impossibility. And that's the reason why, if we look at the numbers, people fall behind every single year. Every single year, we fall lower and lower again. So, folks, I hope, we can use terminologies, capitalism, socialism, communism, all these isms, we can use all of that. Or we can decide we're going to fight for an economy that actually works. And that economy is there. It just means that we cannot allow those who pilfer us from doing that. We would have to make sure they don't. All right. Why is it that we don't know all this stuff? Why is it that we are so behind in our thought process? Why is it that Mike Cisak in our chat can actually push back at a mathematical fact? Because we have a media, and he listens to a media. I know him well. He listens to a media whose sole purpose is to mislead them. And I'll say this as kind as I can, but to make one dumb. Because if I've just told you about the growth of economies, and you don't ask yourself the question, or even if you don't quite understand, you don't call into this and say, Egberto, well, X, Y, and Z, where it can be further explained, that's the reason why we are in dire straits. We as a society have been very dependent on the benevolent president and the benevolent politicians and a media that supposedly does its job. It's all caving in on its face because we are at end stage capitalism. And at that point, it is laissez-faire. But anyhow, and why are we misinformed? Because we have a media not doing its job. And for that, I want to play this. The way news is reported has much to do with how we frame the American mind. One of the reasons why Donald Trump has been successful in being elected in the first place, reelected, is yes, because the mainstream media has been poor in telling the absolute truth, in telling the consequences of having different leaders being elected. Yes, it is true that the opposition party has been poor in getting the vote out, etc. It's been poor in investing in the community. But again, the fourth estate, the mainstream media, the corporate media, one would think would be there to give the unadulterated truth, fact-based information, and not allow all our airwaves to be used to really mislead the people. Well, that's not what happens. We know factually that the mainstream media cowers to the government. And when I say the government, I'm not talking about the good part of government. They cower to corporations. They cower to keeping that eye open for us all. The only reporting entity that otherwise do the right thing, it's the independent media. Whether that be the Pacificas of the world, the NPRs of the world, the individual bloggers, the individual writers of good repute. Those are the folks that now in today's world where we can find the unadulterated truth and facts. We have to find them. And when we find them, we have to support them to make sure that the truth tellers, the ones that are given the proper narrative, remain in existence. I want to play a piece from Amy Goodman's Democracy Now's Amy Goodman's keynote speech at Netroots Nation, because what she does in that speech is she gave two different accounts of the United States dropping the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, from the corporate media, the bought media, and then from independent media. And when I heard that in the keynote speech, that really hit home, because it was saying that we are victims of the reporting we get. So we get good reporting, we make good decisions. If we get bad reporting, uncorroborated reporting, our decisions are that much poorer. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
It's not only the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, it's also the 80th anniversary of the dropping of the only atomic bombs ever used. One August 6th, 1945, the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, Japan. Well over 100,000 people killed there. And 3 days later, today, August 9th, 1945, the second atomic bomb dropped on Nagasaki. And I want to talk about the importance of independent media and talking about this story. One of the people who was in the squadron of planes that dropped the bomb 80 years ago today on Nagasaki was the New York Times reporter William Lawrence, known as Atomic Bill Lawrence. This is how he described the detonation over Nagasaki that incinerated or irradiated some 100,000 people. Lawrence wrote, "Awestruck, we watched it shoot up upward like a meteor coming from the earth instead of from outer space, becoming ever more alive as it climbed skyward through the white clouds. It was a living thing, a new species of being born right before our incredulous eyes," he said. He wrote, "Being close to it, watching it as it was being fashioned into a living thing." He's talking about the atomic bomb, so exquisitely shaped that any sculptor would be proud to have created it. One felt oneself in the presence of the supernatural. I want to compare his reporting to that of Wilfred Burchett, an Australian journalist who defied General MacArthur's blockade of all of southern Japan, saying journalists could not go there, but wanted to see with his own eyes. And he took a train for 30 hours and he ended up in Hiroshima. He saw the shadows of people seared into walls and sidewalks. He met people with their skin melting off in the hospital. He saw patients with purple skin hemorrhages, gangrene fever, and rapid hair loss. Burchett was among the first to witness and describe what is now known as radiation sickness. He sat down in the rubble with his baby Hermes typewriter, and his dispatch began in Hiroshima 30 days after the first atomic bomb destroyed the city and shook the world. People are still dying mysteriously and horribly. People who are uninjured in the cataclysm from an unknown something, which I can only describe as the atomic plague, he said. He went on to say, Hiroshima does not look like a bombed city. It looks as if a monster steamroller has passed over it and squashed it out of existence. He wrote, I write this as a warning to the world. This report that was sent around the world shook the U.S. War Department. General Leslie Groves, they understood how dangerous it would be. They denied the radiation sickness, said it was Japanese propaganda. They brought William Lawrence, their reporter, I'll explain why in a minute, back to the Trinity test a few weeks before to try to prove that there's no such thing as radiation sickness. They called it Japanese propaganda. William Lawrence wrote a 10-part series on the dropping of the atomic bombs. He won a Pulitzer Prize for this. Oh, I forgot to mention, it turned out he was not only being paid by the New York Times, he was also being paid by the War Department, by the Pentagon. And he would write the press releases for Secretary of War Stimson and President Truman, very proudly saying how much he appreciated pushing the atomic effort. We need independent media. That warning to the world is so important. But that's the good news being here in New Orleans, because there is independent media. I want to congratulate Current Affairs on their 10th anniversary. I want to thank the stations that run Democracy Now! Here, like WHIV, which is sponsoring the after party and is so important. WLAE, public broadcasting, is under so much attack, which broadcasts Democracy Now! WTUL at Tulane, WBOK, also WAMFLP, community radio. These are important independent media outlets. There's a reason why President Trump has clawed back, has ended the corporation for public broadcasting by clawing back $1.1 billion that was already allocated. He's afraid of independent media. And I also want to acknowledge my colleagues at Free Speech TV who are doing interviews here through these days. And we're carried statewide on LPB3, Public Broadcasting Third Digital Channel, weekdays live at 7 a.m. There is independent media that's thriving here and all over the country. It just needs your support because it is people-powered. Now, I'm going to speak super fast. I come from Pacifica Radio, which was founded in 1949 out in the Bay Area in California by a man named Lou Hill. He was a war resistor, came out of the detention camps, and then said there has to be a media outlet that is not run by corporations that profit from war, but by journalists and artists. And that's how Pacifica Radio was born. As George Gerbner, the late dean of the Annenberg School of Communications, would say, not run by corporations that have nothing to tell and everything to sell, that are raising our children today. And so KPFA went on the air in 49, KPFK in Los Angeles in 59, my station in New York, WBAI in 60, where you'd hear debates between Malcolm X and James Baldwin, the effectiveness of nonviolent civil disobedience, PFW in Washington in 77. Oh, and well, Egberto is here from KPFT doing nonstop interviews as well. KPFT went on the air in 1970. Within weeks, the Ku Klux Klan strapped dynamite to the base of the transmitter and blew it to smithereens. When they got back on their feet a few weeks later, rebuilt the transmitter, the Klan strapped 15 times the dynamite to the base of the transmitter and blew it up again. It would take months before they could rebuild. Oh, I think it was blown up in the middle of Arlo Guthrie singing Alice's Restaurant, and I thought that was a good song. But anyway, January of 1971, they went back on the air. Arlo Guthrie came back to Houston to finish his song, and it has been broadcasting ever since. I can't remember if it was the Grand Dragon or the Exalted Cyclops, because I often confuse their titles, but he said it was his proudest act. I think that's because he understood how dangerous Pacifica is, how dangerous independent media is. Dangerous because it allows people to speak for themselves. And when you hear someone speaking from their own experience, it breaks down the bigotry and caricatures. When you hear a Palestinian child crying out for food or their mother, when you hear an Israeli grandmother, when you hear an uncle in Afghanistan or an aunt in the South Bronx, it challenges what you know. You don't have to agree, but it makes it much less likely that you'll want to destroy the person. I think the media can be the greatest force for peace on earth. Instead, all too often, it's wielded as a weapon of war, which is why we have to take the media back.
Now, folks, it is important, again, that we support independent media. Yes, it's self-serving for politics done right as well, but we are the ones that are really informing the American constituency, because when you have the CBSs of the world making deals with the Trump administration, when we have all these other social media, corporate media folks making deals, you know that you're not going to get the information. You know you're not going to get the narrative. You know you're not going to get the research that provides any kind of backstop to what these folks are doing. So again, thank you, Amy. We need independent media. Please support all of us.
All of our country's problems.
So here is the thing, folks. What she said is absolutely true. Let me give a perfect example of why we need true independent media. On Substack, somebody named Frank wrote the following. If there was white supremacy, the mob black on white violence in Cincinnati would not have been called a brawl in the media. Try to grow some brain cells. Let me give some good examples of how bad media is. Recently, there was a fight on a plane where a black guy, the video started where a black guy was beating up on another guy on the video. One person that took the video came to one of the network news and pointed out that even though by the time the plane got to the station, that they arrested not the black guy, but the other guy. Okay. And even with that information, the person that the first report that came out on national news pointed out this guy as the aggressor. Now we have Frank in the chat who points out a brawl that occurred in Cincinnati. The right-wing media has all kinds of money to villainize people all over. So they got that video. And what they did with that video is splice it in such a manner that it seems like all those black folks out there in Cincinnati at 3 a.m, where all of them were drunk, were aggressors that started a mob-like fight to beat up on this white guy in the streets. And not until 3 days or so later, when the full video comes out, in other words, again, when independent media released on all their platforms, that what really occurred was that while these guys were arguing, the white guy punched the black guy in the face, and that started the melee. But we have Frank in the chat, who again, based on what he sees in TikTok, based on what he sees on media, and by the way, these corrupting social media platforms, what they do is they allow you to see the things that you're more likely to want to see. So given what Frank's likely proclivities are, he has not likely seen a plethora of other videos that gave the real story. Here on independent media, we do. It is sad. It is a sad thing, especially with all the tools that we have today, with all the technologies that we have today, that we have to be so vigilant. Because one, our right-wing government and to some extent our neoliberals have taught us not to be critical thinkers. We have a mainstream corporate media that tries to formulate our minds. If you notice how Amy described the two different definitions of the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, how narrative means everything. You come to politics done right. Our narrative is that of inclusion. Our narrative is that we are all in the same boat together. Our narrative is that the economic system has to fail. And it's not a question of whether, it's a question of when and how soon. It's in the mathematical formula. As an engineer, the only thing that concerned me used to be math, used to be formulas. Those were the only things that drove me. I thought I could give a formula to any human being and says, I am right because this is what the formula says. But as I joined other activist groups, as I began to learn, as I began to evolve, I realized that being correct, being right, having all the facts is not enough, that we have to make it bread and butter issues. One of the reasons I like bidirectional communication with our audience is where I fail to be able to communicate accurately or convincingly. There are always others able and willing to help the message. Egberto, Willies, you know the algorithms work where what you click on you are given more of that, so you don't see the rest. Exactly. Michael Rudden says, yep, the algorithm feeds on itself. If you watch one video from a channel, expect more videos from that same source and similar ones. Whenever I see a video from a known crap source, I go through my history and make some deletions. But most people wouldn't bother doing this, and eventually people get fed crap. Exactly. Elwin Hudson says Rachel Maddow will not condemn Netanyahu because she is scared of AIPAC would get her fired. Actually, I think I've heard her condemn Netanyahu, if I'm not mistaken. I think she have given Israel a very hard time, not the Israeli citizens, but the IDF, etc., a hard time. And look, it's real. You have to be, look, I give folks like Rachel Maddow who are proven with their benefides, as well as Ali Velshi and others. We want them there. Sometimes they have to say things in a way that isn't as brash as we can here on independent media. But we want the Rachel Maddows. We want the Ali Velshis. We want the Chris Hayes and all these folks out there in the mainstream media to have a foothold. It's important that we give latitude to those who think like us, who are in the mainstream media, because we want them there. We do want them there. And I've spoken to a few of them off the record on this particular issue. You are correct. You are correct, Elwin, that there are some things that they are tepid in the way they report it, but I think justifiably we must give them some latitude. All right, I have another video on with pollster Celinda Lake, but it's too long for me to play with the amount of time that is left. So I'll take calls. Whoever wants to call and make a comment about what we've spoken about, give me a call at 281-823-7747. Again, that is 281. Let me put it in the chat. That is 281-823-7747. I don't have anything else because the next video is too long, but I never run out of things to speak about, but I'd love to hear your voice. 281-823-7747. Anybody wants to call in to make a comment of what I've said? Anybody wants to talk about what I said in the beginning about white supremacy and white supremacy actually affecting white people more so than anyone else? I'd love to discuss that. And if anybody wants to, who didn't quite get what I was trying to say, please feel free to call 281-823-7747. This is a no judgment zone, meaning I want people to feel free to say whatever they want to say. That is one of the reasons you don't see us kicking off those right-wing folks on our chat, because again, I do think in the long run, they will get a little something out of what we talk about here, however progressive we are. So that is 281-823-7747. Una vez más lo voy a repetir. One more time, I'll repeat it. 201-823-7747. Si eres alguien que no entiende o no puede hablar el inglés muy bien, también me pare en español, ya que también hablamos de la inmigración, lo que hace la migra y todo eso. Me pueden llamar en el 281-847. Again, that is 281-823-7747. Here come Minnesota. Minnesota. All right, Ray, come on in, Ray. My brother Ray can talk to me.
Yeah, I like that young man you had put on from TikTok. That was a good little exercise that he kind of, broke down, because it basically shows that, depending on where you are in life, most of us are born black or born white. We don't really have a chance to choose what type of privilege we get. But the way he broke it down, it was like those people that sit on the left side, they had the illusion that they might win, but they were basically saying, well, at least we're not as bad off as the people on the right side. And it's kind of like, politically the Southern strategy. If you make a white man think that he's, got another call coming.
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm going to tie them in right now. All right, continue, Ray.
Yeah, basically they say if you make a white man feel like he's greater than a black man, not only will he let you go in his pocket, he'll go in his pocket and give you his money to make that happen. And that was a famous
quote. That was a famous quote from Johnson. And when Johnson realized he was going to lose the South by supporting the civil rights legislation, but I guess I want to make it clear, right? That sentiment applies to everybody. If you go into, and I've spoken to this with, when I was in business with a company in Taiwan, and I went and I visited my friend in Taiwan. It's the same thing out there. There are the indigenous Taiwanese, and then there are the Taiwanese, and that same kind of dynamic of having a pecking order. So a pecking order for power. It's not a pecking order of intelligence. It's not a pecking order of intellect. It's a pecking order of how one maintains power. I don't have a lot of time. So hold on a second, Ray. Let me give the other caller a chance. 346. Come on in.
Hello there, Harry.
Hey, how are you? Up?
Harry.
Well, it's just everything you said hello, Ray. How are you? Everything you said this morning about fear and the white power structure policy and what Neil Aquino was saying. I also read stuff like with Eric Hayes, Mike Kasich, some of these people in the chat. They just don't get it. They don't understand that the racist white people in this country do not want to lose the power structure, as I mentioned in the text there, one of the texts I sent you, that they created through slavery and their racist system. They don't want to lose that power structure. They don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion. And people that I've talked to, when I've talked to Alan about it, when I've talked to other colored people about it, it's because they are afraid. And they just don't ever want it's over. Even my pastor.
Harry, just say this because I want to get this part up, because this is the part that is so important. And if the only message that folks got from that guy who spoke, I mean, this is I love the way he said the message. There are those with privilege. The privilege is a false privilege. You only think that you get ahead, because ultimately speaking, you are still playing the same game, because you're playing a game you can't win. My white brothers and sisters, my Asian brothers and sisters, the system is a rigged system. And we can solve it. We can actually solve the rigged system if we work together. I always bring up Bacon's rebellion, because when we work together and find out it's not just common interest. We are the same, right? We all the same with different fritura y carimañola and all this stuff, but we have to work together. And that's what it's going to do.
That is why the racists work so hard to divide us. And whenever I see snippets of Megyn Kelly, she was talking about, there was this woman that was on, her name was Lynch, I think, was talking about, she wanted all the racist white people to just go to Cracker Barrel. They don't care anything about the people that come from India, that come from different parts of Asia, set up restaurants here, and the racist white folks are here enjoying it. And here Megyn Kelly is up there laughing and saying, ha, 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 you left-wing lunatic.
Hold on. It looked like one of our resident right-wingers is calling in, so I may extend 1 minute to give him a chance to speak. So let's hear from Mike Cisak. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make a little point in here that no one really can answer. Because I know that all the racists here.
Make your point and stop. Make your point and stop narrating.
Okay.
Please make your point.
Quick point. There's a whole bunch of people that come from Africa who are black, very dark, who come here and do extremely well.
Okay. Okay. That's good
but
enough.
for some odd reason, they're able to do extremely well despite your claims of systemic racism.
Okay, good. I know that's a point that's my. Let me stop you right there. I get the point you're trying to make.
All their claims are false because.
No, let me answer that because you're making the false claim that racists usually make. Okay, and let me explain why. First of all, I came over here and I did very, very well. I went to the one of the best universities and I did very well. I am now not well off because I chose not to be in doing what I'm doing, what is better for society. That's a statement of fact. You can look me up. You can do anything you want to do about that. Now, you're correct as well. Nigerians as well are the most wealthy folks you'll find in the United States as well. Remember what we said. You cannot look at the following. And this is where you miss the boat. The people that make it to the United States in general are the people who could get out from where they are at, which means they're upwards immobile and generally are better off, not only economically, because that's not necessarily the case, but in the fact that they are able to move themselves forward. They are the cream of the crop. They are the ones that leave. You go to Nigeria right now, you see slums. You go to Cologne, where I'm from, you see slums. You go to all these other places where many of us are good black people that come over here are from. I am not going to take anything away from my black brothers and sisters in America because they are the ones who made it possible for this black Latino to come to the United States. If it weren't for my black brothers and sisters in America who fought for liberation from what was done, the slavery that was done on them, I could not have made it over here. So there's not going to be, hold on. We will not allow racists to create a friction between the foreign black and the national black because we all came from West Africa, etc. Now, when it comes to persons like you, I'm not done.
Real quick.
No. Listen, you're going to listen now. All right, here's the deal, and I'm going to finish this here. Because it's important, very important. My white brothers and sisters, we are in the same boat. Do not buy. Listen to what my white brother had to say in that TikTok because he nailed it. You only have the semblance of success. Our Nigerian brothers and sisters, myself, and those of us who could come over here and come early and sit on the left side, we had the semblance of success, and some people invited us in. We were invited because we offered something others could not. In my case, it was the RTS signal. I'll explain that another day. But rest assured that we are all in the same boat. Uju said I can call tomorrow to inform him why the resident. Thank you. Please do that, Uju. It has call in the afternoon to tell the story because I'll keep it up. I got to get out of here, but I want to tell folks, my white brothers and sisters, this is especially for you. Don't fall for the okie doke. We're in the same boat. The idea is to give you that privilege that this white brother spoke about. Make you believe you have a privilege where most of you will never, ever get out of. And if you doubt it, for the 60% below, take a look at your checkbook. Love you all. Before I forget, please remember to support independent media. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and become a paid subscriber. You'll get access to all our books. And a lot of this stuff I have in my books as well, both in How to Make America Utopia, in my book, Class Warfare is the Only Solution, that sort of stuff. Please, we have got to win. And the only way we're going to win is working together. Everybody. Race was a divisive machine created to let the plutocrats win. I love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.